to sell his tax bill. Lana Zach joins us, ABC News correspondent in Capitol Hill. Lana, you keep hearing the polls say that this tax proposal that's being pushed in Washington is not very popular with the rank and file Americans.
You're right, McGraw. So I'll count on you to listen to the president when he's there in your neighborhood today and tell me what the audience there feels. But certainly what we have heard from across the country is that most Americans believe that this tax bill in its current form will, in fact, help the wealthiest of Americans at a cost to working class Americans. And according to the CBO report that came out on Sunday, and that's the nonpartisan group that always evaluates the budget impacts and financial impacts of any bill, they're right that, in fact, this bill in its current form would have the biggest tax cuts go to the wealthiest of Americans, and the poorest of Americans will really see the biggest impact on their bottom line, and especially over the next 10 years, that effect is going to be magnified.
Oftentimes, you show me a good statistician, I'll show you a good liar. And so the argument that most of the tax cuts are going to the rich doesn't really hold water with me, because percentage-wise, they pay more. So you can sort of, right, somebody making $1 million, is going to get a bigger tax cut because they're paying more in real dollars. But in this tax bill, unlike George Bush's tax plan, he's actually raising taxes on people who make under $100,000 a year.
Right. So you're right, McGraw. And you're always right, of course. But so here, when you look at the tax cuts, they are certainly going to be much more substantial for the wealthiest Americans. For example, in the first year that's projected, 2019, somebody making $1 million or more will see immediately $59,000 added to their bank account. But by comparison, somebody making $10,000 to $20,000 they're going to start losing money right away. That this is going to cost them $47, according to the CBO report. And it's going to be even worse if you make less than $10,000. And for a lot of those middle-class Americans, people making around $50,000, they are going to see a tax cut initially. They estimate that group will receive a tax cut of $470 in the first year. But over time, over the course of the 10 years, they're going to actually see, by the end of that, their taxes increase. So what you actually see here is that, according to the CBO report, the taxes are going to go up on working-class Americans and eventually on middle-class Americans. But the tax gains, those tax cuts that are going to be enjoyed by the wealthiest of Americans, that's going to hold.
What I don't understand is why they're going after deductions like telling teachers they can't deduct the $250 they give to supplies for the kids, or the grad student who is now going to have to be charged income on that free class they get to take. It seems like those things just are sort of mean-spirited.
Those things as well, and the deductions are really are one of those issues that has caused the most concern about this bill. In particular, talking about the mortgage interest deduction, and also talking about the deduction for state and local income taxes as well. So many people feel like I've already paid that money out as taxes to the government in my state and local taxes. I shouldn't also be taxed on it again. So that's an issue of concern. All those deductions, and if you take a partisan view of that, it is mean-spirited. If you take a nonpartisan view of that, you may say that that's a way for them to try and clean up all the deductions and try and simplify it, which we know is something that Paul Ryan has really been touting as one of the benefits of this bill. But fundamentally, it is going to mean for a lot of Americans that they're going to end up paying more in taxes.
Is it true, Lana Zach, that the individual will have to pay taxes on their state and local taxes, but businesses get to write off their state and local taxes?
That's the version of the bill right now, yes.
That's shocking to me. That corporations get to write it off, but individuals don't.
And another thing that people have been talking about with the difference between corporations and individuals, McGraw, is that the tax cuts that are being proposed for corporations are permanent. the tax cuts that are being proposed for individuals and families only exist for 10 years. So that's also part of the reason why after 10 years, it is expected that Americans are then going to be paying, are going to be subsidizing these tax cuts for corporations, and that's part of the reason why there's a projection that the taxes for middle-class Americans, lower-class Americans, that those are all going to go up, while the taxes for the corporations don't have a sunset clause in them and are intended to be permanent.
While we're pouring gasoline on the fire, that's the Bob Corker argument, right? He wants triggers that these tax cuts go away for the corporations if they don't hit budget projections, and everyone says, oh, no, you can't do that. Corporations need to plan. Well, what about the individuals? We don't have to plan either?
Right, and there's a lot of families that make budgets and need to stick to them,
right.
And for them that just sounds insulting. The other part of it too, when it comes to things that are contentious about this bill, is the question about repealing the estate tax, and whether or not that should be part of this. And if we're looking at what's going to end up happening, it looks like it's very possible that this bill is going to come to a vote as early as tomorrow. And as of right now, there are 2 Republican senators who have expressed concerns about it. But Republicans can afford to lose 2 votes and still pass this on a strict party line vote. So it is possible, looking at it right now, and the president and the Republican leadership feel very optimistic that they will, in fact, be able to pass this bill right now.
We'll wait and see what happens. Lana Zach, thanks for checking in.